Welcome back to the Digital 2.0 interview series. This is Jeremy Reiner. I'm here with Neil Misak, and we are going to dig into some great stories around digital innovation. Neil, why don't you do a little bit of intro for yourself first?
Thanks so much for having me here today, Jeremy. As you mentioned, my name is Neil Misak. I am currently a channel sales executive at Microsoft. I'm in my fourth role at the company where I've been for the past 10 years. I'm also the co-founder and CTO for REUSO. REUSO is a reusable packaging platform that focuses on digitizing items in closed loop settings. Think beer cups in stadiums, 3-compartment containers in lunchrooms. If we can tag it, we can track it. If we can track it, we can create a circular economy around it. I'm a product of the Big Ten, hold degrees in engineering and business, technology management from U of I, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and just graduated this past May from Northwestern Law. So I'm excited to be here today in a Chicagoland skyrise and excited to talk more about digital innovation in the city that raised me.
Congratulations on getting through the law program. It is a challenging one over there. My brother just went through something similar at another university. So that is a huge accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. 4 years part-time, nights and weekends. Glad to be across the line. Huge shout out to my family and friends for supporting me through the journey and my colleagues, both at Microsoft and in the startup realm. Excited to put all the learnings into action as I've done so far this summer.
And speaking of journeys, looking back over your career so far, this is all about digital transformation. So what are some of the biggest learnings that you've had as you've been transforming organizations or even starting your own organization and trying to really be innovative in your space?
Great question. There's a term in technology known as Moore's Law. And Moore's Law states that essentially every 18 months, year and a half, technology is twice as fast and twice as small as it was before that. What does that mean in action? I deliver a lot of lectures on engineering to students and students of today, especially Gen Z that grew up with cell phones in their pockets, may not remember that cell phones came from archaic devices that took up the entire trunk of a car. And then it was the mobile cell phones that I saw firsthand at my kitchen table. Motorola, the StarTAC, the Razor. I'm inspired by my father, who was an engineer at Motorola, and saw Moore's Law in action at my kitchen table. And so for me, I'm an electrical engineer by training. I'm a device geek at heart. I think of digital transformation as seen through the evolution of hardware, where now we have a supercomputer in a device that fits in our pocket. Rewind the tape 10 years ago, right? That was a much larger, slower device. 10 years before that, it was taking up the entire trunk of a car. And so for me, digital transformation has everything to do with increasing access to technology and harnessing the advancements in speed to pioneer entirely new industries and elevate antiquated industries to do more with less.
I love that. So do more with less. And that's kind of the idea behind REUSO too, right?
Absolutely. REUSO it's been a passion project turned into a very promising tech startup, which started as a labor of love, exploring how the club that we supported, my partner and I working out of Aon Center, joined a dinner club. We got lunch served every day on flatware to us. It was, 2 meals out of a very hectic schedule that we could enjoy together. When the pandemic hit in 2020, they shifted to takeout meals. And so suddenly we had dozens upon dozens of single-use plastic items each week that we were accumulating. We wanted to keep supporting the club. We certainly wanted to keep enjoying the delicious meals they were preparing, but we didn't want this to be at the expense of the planet. We were researching at the time dynamic pricing to combat food waste, a lockbox to combat food security, and we recognized that it would create a circular system, a system where we could dispense a reusable container and capture it back. With that, back to the premise of doing more with less, we could not only help reduce the waste generated, but we could decrease the costs of operations for food service providers. Finally, after several hundred restaurant interviews, very trying time during the pandemic, to push a reusable initiative forward. Hundreds of no's, but we persevered. Finally, September of 2021, we debuted at Andersonville for a street festival, eliminating hundreds of single-use containers, and we've been hard at work since, building the technology surrounding reusable systems to help keep them in circulation and translate reuse data into meaningful metrics.
That's awesome. So you're actually digging in and looking at the metrics about how they're being used and then feeding that back into the process that you're developing.
That's correct. Yes. So the current reusable containers that we source are certified to last anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 uses. So you imagine a scenario like a Major League Baseball stadium, 162 games a year, 81 home games. If that souvenir cup can be used for 24 ball seasons, essentially the entire duration of a successful Major League Baseball player's career, we're exponentially reducing the waste and the cost to serve fans in a stadium setting. And so for us, data by itself is meaningless. Data with action, forecasting insights, eliminating stockouts from various concessionaires through the stadium. When does a product reach end of life? How do we pull that from the stack and decommission it before it introduces a health risk or a variability into the environment? Actually tracking when and where a product was sanitized, right? Reuse is a new industry to us here in the Midwest. I have a lot of folks tell me, Jerry, hey, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable eating out of the same food container, and that somehow a stadium setting is different than a flatware type setting. Just sat down at a Rosebud, delicious Italian restaurant, right? Served on a flatware plate. Somehow that's different, or it's a different process. It's the exact same sanitization process. So for us, data helps overcome barriers. Data helps eliminate stockouts for packaging. Supply chain issues are top of mind for many right now. Ultimately, that digital package to us is a gateway to a plethora of direct and indirect benefits to stadium operators, concessionaires, hungry ball fans, and ultimately society at large.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and a large part of this is taking that real life use case and translating it so that people understand what the data is telling them. So kudos. I mean, that's huge success. Love hearing about this stuff because it's unique applications of technologies that let us innovate, right? It's not necessarily we have to go out there and create a brand new product or a new service. I mean, recycling has been around forever, but how we apply it and how we get people comfortable with it is always key to making sure that it gets adopted.
Couldn't agree more. And I think the point that you made as to the technology has been there. Rewind the tape 10 years ago, I did a near field communication project for Boeing. We're now tagging individual stadium cups, food containers. We were tagging airplane components. However, 10 years ago, the technology was so expensive, the threshold was $500,000. They said, if this component is $500,000 or more, we want to track it through the entire manufacturing process. And I led a team of hardware and software engineers understanding current manufacturing processes and injecting digital traceability into those components. Fast forward 10 years, right? The same technology, the same approach that I was doing 10 years ago for Boeing is now revolutionizing the food and beverage space, which is an industry that operates on slim margins, right? And so again, I'll tie it back to Moore's Law, doing more with less, faster, smaller. We're now developing the Internet of Things down to individual packages. And we've just hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's possible once that package is digitized.
Everything comes down to how do we reapply the same technologies in more innovative and smarter ways that are cost effective. As Moore's Law takes more and more effect, things become less expensive to produce at these smaller ranges. You can start getting large adoptions across the country and the world.
Couldn't agree more. One of my favorite terminologies of innovation is called recombinant innovation. And recombinant innovation is taking a scientific breakthrough in one industry in one facet and applying it to a different domain, right? And so much like the digitization of an airplane component can be translated into the digitization of packaging for the food and beverage industry, in a similar fashion, I believe that the next great wave of tech startups is not necessarily going to be a breakthrough in terms of quantum computing or the next great AI algorithm, but rather applying potentially an existing AI algorithm to a novel industry or a novel solution. To me, that's recombinant innovation. And to me, that's the next frontier, especially to solve some of the largest issues facing today's society.
100%. And I couldn't agree more with that. A large part of what we've always said in the IT industry, right, is how do we apply the same learnings that we've figured out 10 years ago in new ways and make it so that 1 + 1 actually does equal 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's possible. You just have to find the right way to apply it. As you've been going through these different journeys, I mean, whether it's with Microsoft or elsewhere, what are some of the, let's call it the biggest levers that have allowed you to really innovate in your spaces? Whether it's technology, personnel, whatever it might be.
To me, the greatest lever to innovation is proximity. I believe that to innovate in a space, you need to know that space like the back of your hand. And I'll give you an example, reverting back to Boeing, right? Applying near field communication technology. We were actually, my team of engineers drove down from U of I to St. Louis, toured the manufacturing facilities. How are you doing things today? Went back to the lab. Here's what we can do with NFC. Back to the manufacturing facility. Here's what we're going to do. So again, to me, innovation is about taking this concept, a new idea, a new piece of hardware or software out of the lab and bringing it out to the wild. And in order to create that scenario to propel existing solutions forward, you need to have proximity. My team at Boeing would not have been successful had we not had access to that existing manufacturing process. I'll paint another example. I'm very passionate about education. And to me, education is the passport to the future, if you will. 10 years ago, computer science was not part of CPS's curriculum. I spent time volunteering, teaching computer science myself and Microsoft teammates, teaching introductory computer science, right as the code.org movement was getting started. And we were able to identify the gaps in curriculum and what industry needed and ultimately get computer science approved. In a similar sense now, entrepreneurship curriculum is lacking in K-12 spaces. And with 64% of Gen Z wanting to start their own business, they need the tools and the skill sets sharpened at those early ages to help define entrepreneurship, not as just another course that can be taken, but as an actual career path. And so for me, when I think through innovating in a new space, I spend time in the classroom. I actively volunteer throughout District 214. I've been involved in pitch competitions for a variety of years. To me, I have to get close to that problem in order to think through a path forward. I don't have that silver bullet to solve for an edtech solution and focused on entrepreneurship, but I'm closer to that as a result of my team rolling up our sleeves, participating in classrooms, guest lecturing, going to these competitions throughout high schools, learning what exists today, just like my team of engineers did at Boeing, so that we can do better tomorrow.
I just have to say, so education is one of my big hot buttons too. And I don't know if you're familiar, but I spent 8 years in higher education working for a fairly large university, accreditation to matriculation. Everything that happens in between that for a program at higher education or even K through 12 is challenging today. And how to get that innovation and really helping them build those programs. We're going to have to follow up on this one.
Absolutely.
I definitely want to dig in with you deeper on this. That is some of the same passions that I have, because a lot of this is learning about it so that we can then help educate everyone else. And sometimes we even learn in our own careers so that we know how to plan out the next 10 years of what we want to do.
Couldn't agree more. I'll never forget my first entrepreneurship course at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Technology Entrepreneurship Center, TE 461, fall semester, sophomore year. From that point forward, I put on a different lens to perceive the world and started, again, seeing not only problems that were clearly defined and needed to be solved, which my engineering curriculum did a great job of, but to me, innovation is actually seeking that problem out yourself, getting close to the problem, having that proximity and defining the problem. And then entrepreneurship is, of course, taking that innovation, building the business model around it and commercializing it. Innovation and entrepreneurship inherently intertwined. I gave my capstone project at Northwestern Law on the shift in paradigm that needs to occur to propel innovation forward by shifting the culture around entrepreneurship. But with that, back to EdTech, yes, let's definitely take this offline, and we can probably have a whole nother podcast series specifically just focused on EdTech and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. One of the things I want to just drive back is kind of a wrap up on this too, though, is taking it from high school and collegiate courses and driving it to K-12 for entrepreneurship is something that I think you're definitely right on. There's a big gap there. And the sooner we can teach some of those skills, whether the fiscal skills or business management skills, or even just how to package up an idea, present it to the world, if we can start developing those earlier, honestly, there's going to be so much opportunity out there. So I love this. And this is always my fun question for my interviewees. When we look about digital innovation or transformational projects at organizations, what are some of the companies that have really surprised you over the last 10 years, good, bad, or otherwise? But what are a couple of the stories out there that you've heard or been part of that you didn't expect them to be part of the story, or they didn't quite go the way they should have? However you want to take it.
So I've talked a lot about my academic endeavors, my startup endeavors. When I think about digital transformation and especially, a massive cultural shift, I have to pay homage to my organization, Microsoft, right? Where I've been employed for the last 10 years. Rewind the tape. I'm flying out from Urbana-Champaign through O'Hare to Seattle, December of 2012. Microsoft wasn't cool. Microsoft paled in comparison to the kids that were going to work at Google and Apple. And, here I am with my 41 megapixel Nokia phone running a Windows OS, which as a nerd, obviously, I think was still light years ahead of the competition, but Microsoft wasn't cool. And I think that, the stock market also reflected that, right? We were at 27 a share, back in 2013 when I started. To me, Satya Nadella has done such a fantastic job at the helm, instilling innovation as not a spin-off, not a side tangent, but a must-have within Microsoft's identity. And I think that's a product of his engineering background, computer science, educated here in the Midwest, grounded in business, right? University of Chicago, even as a Northwestern alum, got to pay respect to Booth, grounded in business principles here. And you get that type of leader with the innovation that's occurred in hardware as part of the Surface team for 5 years. Now that's a multi-billion-dollar annualized business. You look at cutting edge products like HoloLens, you look at Microsoft catching up rapidly to AWS in terms of the cloud space. To me, and of course the stock market reflecting that, right? Being 10x what it was when I started 10 years ago. So for me, in terms of a company that has exemplified putting innovation as the cornerstone of a company, trying new things, not always being second to market in introducing new products, new areas of products, doubling down in innovative business models like the college hire program that I'm a part of. We now have interns actually that are part of our sales organization. To us, to design products for everyone has a seat at a table. We need Gen Z at that leadership table. We need to address the drastic gap in accessibility that technology has for many today. And so to me, Satya has exemplified what it means to bring innovation and drive digital transformation of a company. And I've been proud to be part of the journey.
Couldn't say anything to that. I mean, honestly, I followed the same journey and dead on, right? Satya's leadership has actually been an interesting one to watch because you could actually see the pivots that happened almost instantly after he took the helm. Fun little game for you at the very end here. Real, hype, or WTF? Simple as that. Go into detail if you'd like to. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire four or five items at you. We'd love to have fun with this. It's some random stuff from the tech marketplace, and let's just call it the news articles that are out there today.
And the three categories again?
Real,
hype,
or WTF.
Okay.
Which is really because we started looking at these and did them ourselves, and we went, well, they're both, but really? Are we really going to talk about this? So have some fun with it. Don't worry too much. We don't take these too seriously. First one on the list is a really easy one, the metaverse. Metaverse is real.
Metaverse in terms of spending days on end living in a visual simulation, as some may alluded to be, is not real. But to me, this notion of digital twin, a digital accompaniment, to a certain extent, even a digital package, you could have a metaverse of packages that we track through our software dashboard for REUSO. To me, the metaverse is real. How we interpret and how we define metaverse up for debate. But I've been digitizing things for over a decade. To me, that digital twin, that digital accompaniment is the metaverse. And so the metaverse is real.
So it's really a real name, a new name for something that we've always been doing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Crypto.
Crypto.
A loaded question, I know, for what's been happening the last month or so in that marketplace, but
To me, crypto is hype. Blockchain is very real technology. Digital ledgers are real. I believe, having spent enough time understanding the intricacies of our underpinning legal system, let alone the securities on the financial side, it's going to be beyond my lifetime before we have a truly decentralized currency that's widespread and adopted massively. So I'm out on crypto. No.
100%. Elon Musk.
WTF, man. WTF. I mean, come on. Like you have an opportunity to be solidified amongst the Gates, the Einsteins of our generation, and you're spending too much time focused on publicity and NFTs and to me it's an example of why we need to shift the narrative of entrepreneurship, right? You have someone that's built incredible companies and instead is embarking on Kanye West type public escapades to shift markets up or down instead of propelling industries forward. So Elon Musk, WTF, you're telling your employees to get back to work? No, you get back to work, man. Let's stop the public charades and let's keep pioneering new industries.
And actually that segues into the last one I got for you. Remote and hybrid work.
Remote and hybrid work is here to stay. I mean, the first 4 years of my job at Microsoft, I worked remote. The saying was, be careful what you wish for. You can work everywhere you can work anywhere, anytime, but before long, you're working everywhere all the time. Hybrid work is here to stay. Organizations need to do a better job of governance, instilling plans that make hybrid work not an extension of your working day, but making your work for you. I view hybrid work as a great way to propel organizations forward, but the culture of running a hybrid organization is not there yet. The tool sets are now, with Microsoft Teams as a prime example, the evolution of that platform over the last few years. Huge step forward from Skype. In fact, a lot of my time working remote was debugging Skype issues back in the day, which is a beautiful irony. But voice over IP, very stable. Hybrid work here to stay. Organizations need to step up and do more to support mental health, employee well-being, and make the hybrid workplace not a extension of the workday, but to empower employees to make their work schedule work with their life.
Finding a good balance. Thank you so much for this conversation first. This has been an awesome time. One of the first Digital 2.0 interview series that we've been able to do in person as well, which I'm loving. We're going to try to get that going a little bit more. But before we break for the day, anything last minute that you want to just tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, projects you got going on, hype up REUSO. I said it wrong again.
You got it. REUSO. REUSO, Chicago's first reuse company, food and beverage reuse company, and expanding packaging beyond just that. You can reach out to us at REUSO, info@reuso.io. That's info@reuso, REUSO.io. We're currently seeking strategic partners serving a large volume of meals that are interested in partnering with us on the next iteration of our pilots. We're seeking additional marketing help. So any sustainability marketers out there looking to grow our team over the coming months. In terms of exciting projects, I'm very excited for my new position at Microsoft, where I'll be tying together all these passions in a variety of domains and working with startups and driving digital transformation forward at both a micro and macro level, if you will. But my new position at Microsoft will be working with our software and development platform accounts. So Microsoft, in response to market trends, has actually aligned a sales team to focus acutely on digital native companies. How we interface with these companies is different than traditional automotive manufacturing type accounts. And so I'm very excited to double down on my Azure learnings. I'm acutely focused on Azure after years in our hardware business, and I'm working with software companies. So in terms of my priorities over the coming months, continuing to expand reuse, making that a reality in Chicago. My partner Ava is actually pitching at Wrigley Field in partnership with Wintrust, Chicago Innovation, and of course the Cubs, working to bring reuse to stadiums, starting with right here, a Cubs and Sox Park here in Chicago. That's I got a busy fall ahead, but no school for the first time in 4 years. I will not be in the classroom this fall, at least taking classes, but you best believe I'll be in the classroom teaching, giving back, and making sure that, the students of today have as great of an opportunity as possible to carry forward the rich tradition of innovation here in our city and continue to bring new ideas into this world.
This is awesome. It sounds like you're going to be pretty bored actually over the next few months. So we'll probably find a couple more projects for you. But no, Neil, again, thank you so much for the time, man. This has been an awesome conversation. We are definitely going to be talking again shortly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.